Hello and welcome. Thank you for choosing the GSA Fleet Card program for your GSA SmartPay training today. My name is Brian Mosley and I work for GSA Fleet running the Fleet Card program. GSA Fleet has 226,000 vehicles that we lease to nearly every federal agency there is. That fleet generates around 8 million transactions a year and purchases nearly 100 million gallons of fuel. It's a very large program. This map you see is GSA Fleet. As it starts, each byte represents a transaction. You can see in the morning on the East Coast, and it moves all the way to the West Coast as we go. And we use the fleet card at all of those locations to purchase fuel. Today, we're going to talk about the fleet card program and how you can gain information from this presentation will help you manage or even drive the GSA vehicle fleet. We're going to talk about three key areas. First is going to be seamless program management. Then we'll talk about a turnkey driver experience, and then we'll move on to helpful rules of the road and resources available to help you make smart decisions regarding your fleet. Henry Ford once said, "Coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success." The key word in that quote is together. And together, GSA Fleet and you, our customer, will help run an efficient fleet and provide great customer service. So let's talk about seamless integration. First is the loss prevention team. GSA Fleet has a dedicated loss prevention team that monitors all transactions for fuel. And when there are anomalies or things that need to be asked, they'll either go straight to the customer or may refer it for a fraud investigation with the Office of Inspector General. Additional to that, we provide SmartPay contract oversight. From day-to-day operations to larger picture things like innovations that come to the fleet, uh, we help manage that SmartPay contract. Additionally, we do OMB A123 Appendix B compliance, and we ensure that we're compliant with all aspects of the OMB. We provide fleet card audit support so you don't have to in case that comes up. And we also provide the data that is required for your agency to report each year on the FAST report. In addition to that, we have data that is available to you to help make decisions or forecasting as it relates to the fleet on the ground or driving the vehicle in general. And any new technology and innovation that comes our way, we leverage the program to take advantage of that. We'll talk a little bit about that later on when it comes to the electrical vehicle electrification. So let's talk about the turnkey driver solution. It is important to know and also point out to new drivers that everything you really need to know about driving the vehicle or getting out of a situation is on the card itself. If you notice on the front of the fleet card in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that there is a statement that shows that GSA Fleet is tax exempt from many services and products from different vendors. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a statement that says enter correct odometer readings. This is generally at the pump. GSA Fleet leases the vehicle to their customers, and that's based on a per mileage charge. So it's very important that accurate odometers are entered so that you are billed correctly for the miles driven. In the very bottom left-hand corner of the card is the tag of the vehicle. GSA Fleet Card is assigned to a one vehicle, so it's a one-to-one relationship. And we want to ensure that you're using the right card for the right vehicle. Now, on the back of the card, this is also very important information, particularly if you're stranded, but there are two phone numbers on the back of the card. One, the top number, goes straight to the WEX customer service. And this is if the card isn't working at the pump, you can call that 800 number, or the vendor doesn't utilize or doesn't accept WEX, you can call and get a MasterCard over the phone. But also, if you're after hours and you're stranded, a vehicle is inoperable or you're having trouble getting out of a situation, you can call that number and they can help set up a tow truck to help uh, get you out. The next number or bottom number below is the GSA Maintenance Control Center. This is for general maintenance over $100, and you'll have a vendor call that number to get it pre-approved for the maintenance. And also, that is the number to the Accident Management Center. So if you're ever in an accident and you want to contact GSA to talk about next steps, you may call that number and also get the Accident Management Center. Another element of the fleet card program is that we want you to be able to utilize that fleet card anywhere that your mission requires you to be. There are over 500,000 plus WEX accepting locations, and also that take MasterCard if need be. Nearly 95% of all fueling locations accept the WEX card, and most of those are diesel sites as well. There's additionally about 45,000 locations nationwide that take the WEX card for maintenance, like oil changes or preventative maintenance type of stuff. And also we have WEX acceptance, or there is WEX acceptance in Canadian sites. So for those customers who have missions on the Canadian border, you can use the WEX card in Canada to purchase fuel if needed. In addition to that, we also have a fuel card available in remote areas like U.S. Virgin Islands, U.S. Samoa, or remote areas of Alaska. If you have a mission in those areas and you need a fuel card, contact your local fleet service rep and we'll be able to set you up with a fleet card that works in that area. Another resource available to drivers is the WEX Connect app. WEX has an app that's both for Google Play or Apple, and the app is very useful. It can show you where all WEX accepting merchants are. These are merchants that accept the WEX card for general preventative maintenance. Additionally, it will show you where the most economical gas is to purchase. And newly added in the last couple of years is the car wash feature, which shows you where you can use the WEX card to purchase a car wash. Another nice benefit of this app is during significant storm events or natural disasters, if you have cell phone coverage in the area, this will show you where gas stations are transacting almost real time so that you can procure fuel in the necessary need in these zones to fulfill your mission. Very useful app to have on your phone, both for your government mission and even on a personal level to find inexpensive fuel in your area. One of the newest challenges that are facing fleets today is electric vehicle integration into our fleet. And so I want to talk a little bit about the fueling experience and considerations. It's important to know that right now we're in the very early stages or the very early market of EV charging infrastructure, and it's evolving every day. So when you think you got it figured out, it changes yet again. So there's a lot of volatility and change happening right now, and GSA Fleet is doing its best to stay on top of that. Uh, it's also important to know that the fueling experience for the EV driver is going to be much different than the internal combustion engine driver, and that we're going to be managing mixed fleets for quite some time to go. So having a fueling plan for mixed fleets, which is what we've been doing for years, and now integrating that into the EV market is going to be challenging. But again, GSA Fleet is working hard to integrate and position ourselves to have brought a lot of charging networks available to us. So paying for EVs and what to know. For charging, we currently use an RFID card by ChargePoint, and you get that ChargePoint from your fleet service rep for those vehicles. You can use that RFID thing to start the transaction and pay for the transaction if you need it. You may also use free chargers around town. They're at typical places that you might expect, like malls or other restaurants. And then you may also use on-site charging that you've installed yourselves. For maintenance of the EV, you will use at just like internal combustion engines, you'll use the WEX card for incidental and routine maintenance. This is things like wiper blades, stuff under 100. For repairs to the EV that are over 100, you will call the GSA Maintenance Control Center, and they will get approval or pre-approval before maintenance starts for anything over $100. So how do you, now that once you have an EV in your fleet, how are you going to charge at public stations? You first start by contacting your local FSR, and they will get you what's called a charge point RFID fob. This is something that will attach to the keychain, and it's something that starts the transaction or engages the machine. Right now, ChargePoint has roaming agreements with the following companies you see, and you can use any one of those charging locations with the ChargePoint RFID. It covers most of the charging locations throughout the United States. The network is growing and expanding, so and more companies are being added. It's just taking some time, and eventually, we're hoping 100% coverage in all EV charging situations. So people ask, why not use a MasterCard or a Visa card? Why use a WEX card? And there are some benefits to the WEX card that the fleet realizes. For one, the WEX card gives us custom card controls. We can determine what types of products, how much to pay, and how often to pay on the fleet card that we don't have the same kind of control with a MasterCard or Visa card. Additionally, there is a PIN number required to activate the transaction. And probably one of the biggest reasons is what we call level 3 data. To draw a comparison between what level 1, which is MasterCard and Visa, and level 3 data is, I use a comparison of going to the grocery store, for example. If you went to the grocery store and you bought some essentials like bread, eggs, things like that, and then you paid for it, you would look on your statement and you would see that you went to the grocery store and that you paid $20 or whatever you paid, but you wouldn't know what you purchased. And that's not exactly a preferred way to purchase fuel for um, fleet vehicles. With level 3 data, we will know we know that when you where you purchased, what address you purchased at, what you purchased, that you purchased 20 gallons of unleaded fuel, and we know and we also know what we pay minus the taxes, and that's going to be important in the next slide. There are over 40 lines of data per transaction, which is all very useful when managing a fleet, particularly a fleet of our size of 226,000 vehicles. WEX also offers what's called a virtual MasterCard, and that is for those vendors or merchants that don't accept the WEX card. Um, and that's almost 100% coverage for their entire fleet for purchasing products and services. Fleet cards also save agencies money. The fuel tax recovery annually that we collect utilizing the fleet card is around 12 million. We either collect it on after the fact or we mitigate it by not paying it at all up front. Additionally, the way that GSA Fleet pays their bill daily, they get a rebate that equals around 7 million. That totals to 19 million, which we then use to keep our leasing rates low. Fleet cards also have control limits for purchases that are approved for the vehicles. And some large merchants or national merchants give discounts for utilizing the Wise card. Another question we get is why does my FSR contact me about me purchasing premium fuel when I did not purchase premium fuel? Or I used the card to purchase alternative fuel, but didn't get credit because it showed up as something other than what I purchased. And that is usually due to bad product coding. Product coding can, the error can happen in four different places. So it's very difficult to assess where it happened. It can happen at the pump, like it's not properly programmed at the point of sale at the pump. The merchant bank, uh, which the gas station is a member of, may have miscoded it. It could happen with the processor, where the money goes from WEX to the merchant bank, and then it could come into WEX incorrectly. At any rate, we work very hard to minimize the impact of bad product coding by performing algorithms that properly code it, or at least prevent the or properly code it. So what can you use the fleet card for? First and foremost, use the right card for the right vehicle. You should not use the fleet card that's not assigned to the vehicle to purchase any products or services. You may use the card to purchase regular unleaded self-service fuel or alternative fuels as required. You may not use the card to purchase premium fuel. You may use the card to purchase immediately consumable items for the vehicle. Think washer fluid, wiper blades, etc. You may not use the card to purchase things like air fresheners, sub sandwiches, sodas, lottery tickets, even alcohol, cigarettes, all of these things that we've seen people try to use the card to buy. And I always wonder if someone won the lottery using the GSA Fleet Card, who would win the money? You may use the Fleet Card for exterior car washes within the local guidance, and you may not use it for excessive car washes or interior details. For the best source of information as it relates to car washes, because this question comes up a lot, the very best person to talk to in our program is the FSR, your fleet service rep. They can give you guidance for your local area and also point you to local vendors that you can get your vehicle washed. You may use the card for mechanical repairs as needed. You may not use the card to upgrade the vehicle, such as things like snow tires or even snow plows to put on the front of the vehicle. In order for that type of upgrade to happen, you must coordinate through the fleet service rep for approval. This leads to the next topic of what the fleet card hustle. This is the fraud element of the fleet card program. And there are four types of fraud that I want to talk about today. The first is the friends and family plan. This is a person who uses the card for personal gain. They use the fleet card to fill up their POV, personally owned vehicle. And sometimes they use it to fill up the other members in their family or even their friends. When this happens, it gets referred to the Office of Inspector General and an investigation is performed. The other type of fraud that we might see is that a card is lost or stolen, and somehow someone who found it figured out how to use it and is utilizing the card. Another type of fraud that we face is called skimming, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And the third is phishing. Phishing is when someone tries to call and learn how to use the card or ask information that helps or assists them in defrauding the card. So, first, do not use the fleet card to fill up your personally owned vehicle or anybody else's for that matter. Use the fleet card for only a government vehicle that's assigned and the missions intended to perform. Report lost or stolen cards immediately. And we'll talk about skimming here in a minute. And do not talk about how to use the card to anybody on the phone that you do not know. This is when we get to talk about is this fraud or misuse? And what I want to highlight here is we're going to go through a couple of the transactions here. This transactions are over 2 days. There's 6 transactions per day. It was a Tuesday and Wednesday. On Tuesday, the transactions started at 1912 and ended at 1929. That's about 17 minutes. On Wednesday, they started up again at 11:53 a.m. and ended at 12:10, another 17 minutes. So you notice over 24 hours, we had a lot of transactions. The next thing you'll notice is that the odometers are all over the place. On Tuesday, it started at 22,273. You had one at 19,000. You had another one at 49,000. And then they started duplicating 22,500 3 times in a row. On Wednesday, very similar, 22,500 was used a few times. You have 25,000, 24 or 20,000, and even a 50,000. So again, transactions were back to back. The odometers were not sequential. And additionally, you'll notice that the tank size of the vehicle in question is 50 gallons, but over the 6 transactions, they exceeded 50 gallons by quite a bit. Over 30 gallons the first time, and quite a bit more on the second time. So the question I always ask is, we have what could appear to be fraud, but it also could be misuse. This sort of looks like skimming, but also could be misuse. I usually ask on a live audience by show of hands how many people think this is fraud and how many think it's misuse. Most people think it's fraud, but in this particular case, it was misuse. This was a soldier and an army convoy using a single GSA card to fill up 6 vehicles. The soldier would sit at the pump, swipe the card, next vehicle would come in, he'd swipe the card, etc. Not necessarily fraud, but definitely not the way the card is supposed to be used. So it's important, again, to stress to those driving, and if you are driving, use the right card for the right vehicle. So let's talk about skimming. First of all, skimming is when a criminal places a device inside of a gas pump that captures the encoded data on the card. They then take that encoded data and they sell it on the black market. The person who purchases that encoded data then encodes that data onto another plastic magnetic strip card and uses that to purchase gas. They will hit that gas station as hard as they can until the bank shuts the card down. Usually around 3 to 5 transactions before the bank says, hey, this isn't right, and they shut it down. So what can you do to protect the government card and yourself for that matter? I mean, at this point, you probably either know somebody who has been scammed or you yourself have been scammed by somebody. So what can you do to protect it? Well, statistically speaking, most scammers sit on the outside, out of eye shot distance from the cashier. So it would be a good practice to utilize those pumps that are within eye vision of the cashier, typically in the center of the fuel island. So avoid the outside pumps. Or, well, that is probably the best thing you can do for the government cards. Um, is also the agency's job to protect their fleet cards. So the agency is accountable for the cards and transactions that happen on those cards if those cards are stolen or lost. So it's a good idea to know who has the cards and when they're being used. Additionally, it's 1 card per vehicle, so use the correct one. Also, keep your driver ID or PIN number confidential. Do not take a Sharpie and write your PIN number on the card. all things that have been done. Do not store the card inside of the vehicle either. Good rule of thumb when securing the fleet card is the two lock system. For example, in a locked office, in a locked drawer or locked cabinet, but it is important that you have a two lock system when you're not there to physically oversee the cards. So everything else that you need to know. GSA Fleet provides the portal called Fleet Drive-thru. And I'm going to highlight three elements of it today, but know that there are several different data points that you can access on Fleet Drive-thru. And a lot of them are very good information when trying to decide what to do with your fleet and how to forecast or make predictions and budget requirements and all and such. But today I'm going to talk about just three parts of it that are very useful for a lot of different reasons. The first is ordering a replacement fleet card. The card is lost, the card is broken or stolen for whatever reason. You can go into Fleet Drive-thru. You'll choose the fleet card replacement ordering section. You'll fill in the address. You can choose the default address, which is usually the address that we have on record for the customer, or you could drop ship it to any place that you want or need to drop it. Let's say that somebody is on TDY and loses the card and needs the card to continue on. You can send that card to the hotel and that person can get the card the next day. If you get that card ordered before 1 p.m. Eastern time, that card will go overnight that night, and it is highly likely that the driver will get the card the next day. The card arrives ready to go. You don't have to do anything special. It's already active, and you can immediately start using the card. Another report in Fleet Drive-thru is very useful is the fuel use report. You can run a report that shows at a transaction level the transactions that the vehicle or fuel that the vehicle purchased by transaction or all the vehicles assigned to your cost center. In addition, you can do it by summary. So summary is the vehicle purchased 52 gallons for the month or all your vehicles purchased this much. So you have a choice. You can run it by transaction or by summary. Great way to know when fuel was purchased and if it was legitimately purchased. Another element in Fleet Drive-thru that's very useful, particularly for new drivers just starting out, is a fleet card driver training. It's a very short video that the new driver can watch and will tell them how to use the card and different procedures and policies as it relates to the card. So a nice orientation video for that new driver just getting going. And another very useful resource is a foldout that comes with the card itself. This card has great information. There is that Wex Connect app, how to download that on there, which we talked about, which is good for um, if you have a mission in natural disaster area, getting real-time information on fuel pumps that are operating. There is a step-by-step guide on how to use the card. There is a step-by-step guide on how to get maintenance for the card. There are some national brands that accept a WEX card. On the back of there's a double-sided fold-out. It folds down to the size of a credit card, so it goes right along with the card. You'll have do's and don'ts of the card program, and also how to get, if you're stranded, what to do, and also who your local fleet service rep is or how to contact your local service rep. So another great resource. If you need some of these, you can contact your fleet service rep and we can get some of these foldouts to them. So this concludes the presentation for today. We're going to be around, we'll stick around for a little bit to answer any questions you might have in chat and go live. Um, if you have any questions or you don't know who your fleet service rep is, you can contact the loss prevention team at lpt@gsa.gov, and we can help you find who your fleet service rep is. We can also answer questions related to fraud or misuse. If you need a replacement card and you're having trouble in fleet drive-thru, you can send an email to replacementcards@gsa.gov, and we can assist in getting a replacement card for you. There's a website that also has a lot of useful information both for the driver and for the vendor, and that's gsa.gov /fleet card. Again, my name is Brian Mosley, and it's been a pleasure to present to you. Thank you for your time, and again, we'll stick around for a little bit to answer any questions you might have in chat.